So we've had talk over the last couple of days about the ACC imploding, the Magnificent Seven going off into their own little world. Well, I think a lot of that's been overblown, and it looks like the ACC is going to be in good shape.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On BC. I am your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, and when you enter promo code LockedOnCollege, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. So, over the last 2 days, we have been getting into this conference realignment talk, looking at the ACC and really kind of gnashing our teeth, getting real. And I admit, I have been the leader of a lot of this, but looking at okay, so what happens if these two teams leave? What happens if these Magnificent Seven, this Old West style group of 7 teams they're going to leave? What's going to happen there? And then as a Boston College person, taking this all in and going, what does this all mean for Boston College? A team that has been, a program that's been largely an albatross or not pulling its weight in terms of the ACC. This morning, I think it all came to a head when there were people saying, there's 7 teams are going to vote to dissolve this grant of rights deal with ESPN. The ACC is no more. They got an 8th team. It's going to be Louisville. I saw a couple people saying that. And everyone's freaking out. Oh, Patriot League. Here comes Boston College. Oh, well, later in the day, just 24 hours after the athletic directors left the first day of AD meetings for the ACC, we get the second day ending where the athletic directors actually talk to the media. Now, Brandon Marcello of 247, again, the site, the network I work for, says that they are now progressing towards adopting a new weighted revenue distribution model that is expected to keep its largest football powers happy and committed as members of the conference. The models are centered on merit-based rewards that would provide programs a bigger share of the conference's annual revenue based on their postseason success, particularly in football and basketball. Top-tier members could earn an additional $10 million or more in revenue, says FSU Athletics Director Michael Alford. So there you go. And then Michael Alfred also says, I think some of that, talking about the discontent, was overblown. The future of the ACC in that room, we're together and we're coming up with a lot of solutions with one another. Now, a lot of this could just be press speak. I know a lot of folks might be skeptical of what you heard, but this might actually be the best solution for everyone involved. And I have to say, I think it's good for BC too. Instead of just giving Clemson money because they're Clemson, they were Clemson when they signed the grant of rights. They were Florida State when they signed the grant of rights. They shouldn't get it now we don't want more money and hold the conference hostage just because of their name. That's bogus. And every other team in this conference should have said, nope, you're not getting that. Revenue, though, a revenue spike based off of on-field performance makes a lot of sense. And that should keep those bigger programs happy because it's Clemson. Clemson has always been the top of the ACC. They will get that money, whether it's from the playoffs or from the elite bowls or ACC championship games. However they figure out how to divvy up that extra revenue, that should keep a team like Clemson happy. And that should keep a team like Florida State, who thinks they should belong up there. And this year, they're projected to be right up there. And then for teams that are absolutely delusional, like Miami, that haven't been relevant in 20 years, and I know BC has too, but at least BC knows where they are. Miami thinks they're still a blue blood in college football. Well, at least they can keep their delusion going and believe that they deserve to get that money. And for programs like Boston College that are fighting to put on a great product, maybe they will have a year like Pitt had 2 years ago, where they win the ACC and they go to an elite bowl. And when the NCAA goes up in a year and a half, I think it's like a year or 2 years. I mean, sorry, I don't even know the bowl system right now. I don't know when the bowls turn to 12. I think it's next year, the 12 game playoff. BC, maybe they start to battle. They can do what Pitt did and get themselves up there. It gives incentive and reward for things that actually matter, which is on-field performance. And that, at the crux of everything that they're battling for, should help. And now Brandon Marcello says, it's going to be $10 million plus a year and whatnot. That's not going to get teams to where the SEC and Big Ten are, but you got to figure out ways to start to cut that down. And for bigger programs, the programs that are expecting to battle every year and to put top ranked coaches in there and top ranked recruiting classes, that's a start. Because you can then, when you're, say you're $30 million behind, I think that was the number I saw between the ACC and the Big Ten, ACC and the Big Ten and the SEC. You slice that down by 10. You assume maybe in the future that number with media deals could go up a little bit. So say 15. Then I think Jim Phillips has done a solid enough job of nickel and diming, so a couple $1 million here, a couple $1 million there. You get up to $20 million. Then you're only $10 million behind the ACC and SEC. At the end of the day, is that enough to leave your conference? No. Is that enough to blow up everything for 14 teams? No. It makes sense. It's a good deal for now. And in a moment, we'll talk about what the future of the ACC really looks like and where Boston College kind of sits in this whole process. We'll get into that in just a moment. But before I do that, our friends over at Birddogs are the best. If you don't know what Birddogs are amazing, versatile clothing that fit and comfort that cannot be beat. Okay. They are, I have 2 shorts right now. I feel I look better and I feel great wearing Birddogs. I got a couple pairs in the mail the other day. Man, these are exactly what I need. They look like you could go to a nice restaurant if you want to go eat outside. They're perfect for that. If you want to go work out in them, you could do that too. You go hiking in these shorts. They do everything. They give me the freedom to wear one of these pair of shorts on the golf course, to a meeting, a date, or hang out with friends. They got everything, okay? So I love the Birddogs, and I think you will too. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. And when you enter promo code LockedOnCollege, they're going to throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. Okay, so say you go over to there, you order a couple pairs of shorts, which I know you're going to love. I'm loving them right now. I'm wearing them as we record, and I'm so happy to have these for the summer. They're lightweight, they're light, they're perfect. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, and you're going to get a free Yeti style tumbler that I'm sure you're going to like as well. Birddogs, they're great. This is Locked On BC, AJ Black, and we are talking about what we've been talking about all week. It was Cam DeBro, who is a guest writer on 247's Wake Forest site, had a great name for this time of the year. It's silly season. Because, and I think he's totally right, and Cam nails this. It's silly season because you're getting tons of people out there. I saw one dude that was like, yes, I've got it confirmed that Louisville is going to be the 8th team, and they're on their way to the Big 12. And then you see 15 people retweeting this guy who has really no sources, and it just gets crazy. It's silly season. But now it looks like things are finally going to calm down on this ACC implosion that everyone was doom and gloom about. Now, at the end of the day, where does this leave Boston College? I think this is good for BC. Obviously, any way that you can keep the current iteration of the ACC intact is good for Boston College. Because if the ACC were to implode, as we've said on the show, I'm not sure any conference like the big ones would want them. They're not going to go to the SEC. The Big Ten has much bigger fish that they would go after, like UNC, UVA, whatever. They would end up in the AAC. So for BC, they've got to fight and claw to keep this together and to keep Florida State happy. At least a little bit, right? As I said on last week's show, the show on Monday, I don't want to capitulate to Florida State and Clemson. But as I said, they do have a point to get more money. And this system, this new revenue distribution system, works for all involved because it's not going to hurt Boston College all that much. They may lose a little bit if they have crappy years and aren't performing. But as we've said as BC people, they deserve that. They shouldn't just suckle on the teat of the ACC if they're playing poorly. So if they lose a couple $1 million because they usually get it when Clemson makes the playoffs, then I'm totally fine with them losing that money. They deserve to lose it. It should go to Clemson or should go to Florida State. So I think this is a good system. And I think this is a good plan. Now, the bigger question, is this enough? Now, we just saw Florida State's AD come out and say that they're I think the word they use, they're thrilled to be in the ACC. Now, I'm not going to buy into comments to the press. There's always motives behind everything that's being said. That being said, remember, I think a lot of folks are not looking at the perspective of this whole situation in a realistic mind frame here. There's a Magnificent Seven. That's great. And if there's an 8, they could erode the ACC. But does that mean those 8 teams would immediately find more success if they left the ACC? I'm sure Florida State and Clemson would be fine. But UVA, Virginia Tech, for the SEC and Big Ten that have both said that they don't want to add too many more teams, that's a lot. That's risking quite a bit. So this system that they're putting in place, I think is going to work. I think it's going to keep things happy for a while. And I think it's on Jim Phillips to, as I said in that first segment, to find more ways to continue to kind of chip away as much as you can. Because yes, you're never going to get the ACC up to the level of the Big Ten and the SEC until 2036, when that grant of rights deal dies. But now that you figured out a way to kind of get it closer, and to credit for him, the Comcast deal for the ACC network has helped. They had a record amount of money last year. They brought in the most. Continuing to find revenue streams to help out this conference. If you continue to infuse that in and get $1 million here and $1 million there, all of a sudden the ACC that so many people are writing obituaries for and ready to stomp on their grave, they're going to be in better shape. There is a viability about this conference. It's not dead. Okay. And 2036 is what? 13 years away. My math was terrible there. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then. Will there be an NCAA by that point? There could be something completely different based off of all the court rulings that are going to be coming up, and the way that the political structure of this whole thing sets up. For now, it's year by year, and we're in May and June. And let's be honest, folks. There's folks out there that don't have a lot to talk about, yours included. I gotta be honest. When we get to June, we're gonna have official visit season. I'll have a ton of recruiting talk, but right now, this is like, I feel like it's been like this for the last 4 years, where we just talk about realignment over and over again. But I think this is the first time, honestly, where there was a little bit of smoke to the fire. But hopefully, this revenue distribution system will finally put a little bit of water on that smoke. In our final segment, we're going to get the heck off of realignment and get into recruiting. And there was a huge recruiting news in college football, bigger than Boston College, that could impact BC. And I'm going to explain why in just a moment. This is Locked On BC. I am your host, AJ Black. Everyone out there, if you're an everydayer, thank you so much. We have seen our growth of the show rise tremendously. Even after a 3-9 football season, we've seen BC, Locked On BC, become even bigger. And I want to thank each and every one of you for doing that. Now, on Monday, college football had a recruiting story that rocked college football as the number 1 quarterback in the country, Dylan Raiola, committed to the University of Georgia. He's a 5-star. He's the best recruit in that class. And it was a big deal for the Dogs. So why am I bringing this up on Locked On BC? Why is this important to BC fans? Well, one of BC's big targets, Ryan Puglisi, a 24 quarterback from Avon Farms in Connecticut, he's committed at the same position at quarterback for Georgia. Now, I think a lot of folks want to know, would Puglisi, now that they bring in this super blue chip recruit, back off of his commitment? And I got bad news for you. Based off of what he's saying, it doesn't sound like that. Puglisi, from what I've heard, has always known that Georgia's going to take 2 quarterbacks. So that the fact that they brought in a blue chipper doesn't surprise me that he's like, okay, that's fine. But he's also saying, I'm already ready to battle whoever it's going to be. So this is no big deal to me. So does this mean that BC is out on Puglisi? I'm not so sure there yet. I still have a few sources that have talked to some people that make it sound like it's not a done deal. Puglisi continues to say that he is strongly committed to Georgia. And there could be changes in what he ends up looking for. But I still think this is someone to watch. We're hitting OV time, or official visit time, in June. You already have at least 1 quarterback coming in Aiden Glover from Collierville, Tennessee. Would it surprise me or stun me if Puglisi comes to Boston College at least for an official visit? It wouldn't stun me. Would I be shocked? A little bit shocked, but this is surprise time. I talked, for Eagle Insider, I talked to the staff, I talked to the kids. From everything I've heard, he's still locked into Georgia, but there's still so much time between now and National Signing Day. Now, BC needs to get their quarterback signed quick, or get them on board quick. That means this would have to happen relatively quick. BC's not going to wait till December to get their signal caller. Like, they're not going to wait to find out if Puglisi gets it, because they've got their Henry Hasselbacks, their Glovers, even their Miles O'Neills that they just offered this week. And they got a couple other guys that they've offered. But I know the staff is very interested in Puglisi. And I know from what I've heard, that he had some great visits to BC back last year. So it's still, I'm telling you, when you're number 2 on that recruiting list for quarterbacks, as much as you say that you're locked in, and he's been adamant about it. So credit to him, and I'm not going to call him a liar or anything like that. But so much changed in college football, and people say things and then do the complete different thing, 2 weeks later. So I'm just going to say, I don't believe the Puglisi recruitment is done. I still think there's a possibility that we could see something change here. And it could go to BC, could go someplace else. But I think it's something worth watching. And people are going to ask me, would you want him over Henry Hasselbeck? Yes. Yes. This kid is a 4-star quarterback. I think he's probably one of the top 15 or 20 quarterbacks in the country. If you can get Ryan Puglisi, you get him. And then maybe you play the same game that Georgia's playing with him. See if Henry Hasselbeck will come in as a quarterback number 2. I think if they can get this kid, this is a big deal. And I think this will be something worth watching. I'm just going to leave it at that. And it's a situation where he may end up at Georgia, but there's been weirder things that have happened. On tomorrow's show, we're going to be joined by Mitch Wolf. We're going to talk about 3 things that Boston College has to change for the 2023 season to have a better year. One of them, we'll get into the other 2, and we'll talk about why all 3 matter. We'll get on to that tomorrow's show. Thank you all so much for listening. This is AJ Black. You can follow me on Twitter at AJ_Black. AJ Black 247. I keep going back to my old username. I switched it. Go to Eagle Insider, become a subscriber. We have a ton of recruiting information up there, and it's a great community too. You guys talk in that board here, but we have a great message board, and I'd love for each and every one of you to join it too. So you're talking BC sports all the time. And we'll get into more as this week goes on. Thank you all so much, and hit that like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube. We'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.